Hello out there in Facebook and YouTube and Twitch and every other where land. I am here for my two songs and a cover show. However, unfortunately, it's probably just going to be the two songs. And the reason for that is I was ill prepared and I hate playing songs when I am not prepared. So, but first things first, I'm going to probably yap here for a minute, mainly because of the fact that it's been a bizarre week. I posted something a few days ago where the observation that I'm having right now is that we've hit a wall as a country. And that wall happens to be it happens to be a wall of people that are breaking down due to the shelter in place thing. I made a prediction, or at least an observation, that it seems that 7 weeks apparently is the maximum amount that most people can tolerate. Not necessarily a lack of human connection, but just a reduced amount of human connection. That being said, somebody else posted on that post to then tell me that it's been scientifically studied and apparently 6 weeks is the actual limit. So maybe because of the fact that where I'm at, we were sheltered in place rather early compared to a lot of places, I might have been a week ahead. So my 7 weeks might have actually been 6 weeks for most other people. And in that regard, that would be true. And it's an interesting concept. As a studio musician, as a composer, as a songwriter, I spend an inordinate amount of time by myself in a little place where I create, I write, I record, I mix, I do all kinds of things. And so this hasn't been a huge change to me, but I can understand that for a lot of other people, it's been a substantial change. And like substantial, I mean like humongous change. The main thing for me is that I don't get outside to do the normal sports that I'd like to do at this time of year or previously when the snow was still on the ground and we were skiing. To me, that's not an issue. I still can work out in the house and I can still get some sort of like exercise of some sort and I'm cool. However, a lot of people, they really need that social interaction and they're starting to crack. Yesterday, I had several friends of mine that I thought were good friends and started calling me names and other various other things, and it was really kind of disappointing. That's just even just a, it's just disappointing. That's just the way to put it, and it had everything to do with me making a post about wanting people to take full responsibility for their own actions in regards to wanting to go out back into the country and reopen the place. Literally, it was just saying, hey, if you want to go do it, I'm happy to have you go do it, but please take financial responsibility for whatever it is that happens in regard to this virus. Because you might be asymptomatic. However, if you are asymptomatic, chances are you have no idea, and then you go out and give it to somebody else, and they get sick, they can possibly die. And as of yesterday evening, I found out that another person that I know has passed away from COVID-19. So it's kind of weird to know that many people that have already passed away, and it's frustrating because it's a very simple process to get over this. It's just get away from people for a short period of time. When the coast is quote unquote clear, then we go back out. So that's just how I approach it. It's not out of fear. It's not out of fear of living. It's not out of fear of anything else. I don't hold the economy more sacred than health. Everything's got a balance, but we blew it. And that's unfortunate. So now we sit inside and we do what we need to do, or if we have an essential job, we go out and do our essential job. As a musician, I realize that my job is not technically essential. I don't really have a problem with that. That is my chosen line of work. It is what I'm very good at. And I realize that I'm not going out and saving lives. In times like this, though, I do actually provide entertainment of sorts, because if you're watching television shows or some movies or playing some video games, chances are you've heard my handiwork. That's great. Right now, productions are shut down, so I'm not really getting any jobs in that regard. So, yeah. Dennis, I agree with you. Musicians are essential, but not essential in the same way that, say, a healthcare worker is. It's not quite the same thing. Yes, we do provide a type of service. It's just not as essential as healthcare. And I'm okay with that. I'm plenty fine with that. It's just the way life rolls in this current situation. So, uh, yes, we can entertain on these screens for now, and that's what we're doing. And like a good friend of mine who is holding Thursday night shows, she's turned her thing into more of a talk show kind of thing. And I kind of came to a realization last week when I got done with my 2 songs and a cover, which tonight is 2 songs and no cover. It might be 3 songs if I'm pestered into playing a third one, but it won't be a cover. It'll be one of mine. Her talk show runs through all the stuff that she's going through in the week, and it's actually rather hilarious. She is a funny person. I enjoy watching her show, and she will carry on for as long as people will continue to watch, which is fun. She also has a tendency to drink alcohol, which makes her a little more animated, a little more loose on the tongue, I would think. It's an interesting process to listen to her go through her verbalization of some of her thought process. So, but for me personally, one of the highlights of my week was getting into the kitchen and creating what most people tend to know me for if they've come to any of my dinner parties or anything: pizza. Uh, I am a I don't know if it's a good way to say it, but a gifted pizza maker. Make everything pretty much from scratch, almost everything. Haven't, I have grown vegetables that I've used. I have made cheese that I've used, but generally I make the dough from scratch. I make the sauce from tomato paste and then put in all the ingredients and everything, and then I chop up usually store-bought cheese. I chop it up, and same thing with vegetables or meats that I might end up putting on the pizza. So for a good while there was a monthly game night at my house, not during the whole pandemic thing, but years ago. I used to hold a monthly game night, and I would have other functions, and everybody always loved to have the pizza because I would make pizzas and then I'd be tossing the dough, and everybody'd be like, "Hey, wait a minute. Your pizzas is as good or better than most restaurants that I've ever been in." So, yeah, it's one of those things where making pizza is a fun thing for me. It's enjoyable, and I happen to do a pretty good job at it. And that's a nice thing. So, beyond the pizza thing, another thing that I've been working on recently is with a buddy of mine out of Los Angeles. It's called Inside the Recording Studio. And we do this podcast, and the podcast is called Inside the Recording Studio. And the history behind that is a while back, I started collecting domain names. And the main reason is that at some point I figured if I collected enough cool domain names and I had enough finances going around, that I could start creating all these different websites and entities in addition to all the music that I do, and have something fun to do to get my mind off music when I've been doing too much of it. So one of those domains that I have is Inside the Recording Studio, and the initial concept that I had for doing that particular domain had everything to do with the idea of Inside the Actors Studio. Because that guy does some amazing interviews with some very nice or very big celebrity type actors, sometimes not so big, but others big. And he gets them to answer some amazing questions. He's almost like the philosophical version of, say, Howard Stern. And I used to love watching Howard Stern for when he did his show. I used to listen to him every morning, and it was a lot of fun. So that was the concept behind doing Inside the Recording Studio is to have this podcast where I would bring in recording industry personnel and interview them in a fashion that was similar to the Inside the Actor Studio. That didn't quite materialize over the years, and I had a couple of false starts. Then I got an idea of like maybe it would be fun to break down a song from the inkling of the idea all the way through to the steps of the recording process to the finished product. And I tried a couple of episodes doing that, and it just was so boorish and dry. It was meh. And so I didn't really continue on with it. And then I got hooked up with another friend who has famously created some sound libraries that other people use. And he's quite the interesting character. Right now, he's transitioning a little bit away from music with his wife, doing some chocolate stuff, and that's a pretty cool thing for him. We were going to do that idea of the Inside the Actor Studio with the Inside the Recording Studio using YouTube and everything else. And all of a sudden, he got real busy doing something else. I got really busy doing something else. And the two other guys that I think we had on board to do it also got busy doing something else. So we never ended up actually doing it. And then I just said, you know what? I need to start something. And that was earlier this year. And so I went to my buddy Chris, who I now do the Inside the Recording Studio podcast with. We revamped it. We figured out how we were going to do it, and we got it started. And we're now booked out in terms of like the number of episodes all the way into July at this point. And people are already starting to listen to it, and there's been literally no advertising. So that's actually quite exciting, to say the least. And so that comes out every Friday, and Chris and I record an episode or two every week. So we're actually getting way ahead of ourselves in that regard. And to top it off, we have started reaching out to other friends in the industry to ask if they would be willing to come in and be interviewed by us to actually get some of that Inside the Recording Studio modeled after the Inside the Actors Studio kind of thing. And so actually, Dennis, if you're still listening, answer this. Would you be willing to come on and talk about what you do with Seymour Duncan, or are you even still with Seymour Duncan? I don't know. Some of the other people that I've talked to are Grammy winners, and they're like, yep, let me know when you want me to come in and do it. We'll do it. So it's going to become like this encompassing, well, hopefully an all-encompassing type of industry-style podcast about the things that happen inside a recording studio, because that's the current vision for where it's going. And the website is up, and we're on all the major streams on Apple and Spotify and iHeart and Google Play. All of them got it. So every Friday, that's what we're doing. So, and that's kind of been one of the things that's been keeping me slightly sane in this sheltered in place kind of time. In addition to that, I've been working on a whole bunch of new singles. Great. Glad to hear you're still at Seymour. Whole bunch of new singles, which has been a slowish process. And part of that has to do with someone else that I met a year ago at NAMM under strange circumstances at a Telefunken party. She came up and started kind of harassing me in a sense, and I take it as good nature usually. And it led to some discussions about my music. She went and sought me out. And essentially she sought out my music without even me asking. I didn't push it on her. I didn't say anything. And she just was like, man, you're really quite good. And I'm like, thank you. I appreciate that. And yes, I will do that, Dennis. So due to her liking my music and wanting me to do some videos for some companies that she worked for, I went and did that. And she turned around and asked if I had certain elements together for releasing my music. Now, up until that point, I had been releasing music kind of willy-nilly in the whole new era of streaming, thinking I'd just dump it out like other people do. Not full albums, but singles. mainly because I've kind of gotten tired of trying to sell the plastic concept. I'd rather just have lead with the music, let the music do its talking, and do that, and hopefully just garner enough people to jump the Spotify numbers through the roof. So it's a slow and painful process. And up until that point, like I said, I've been doing it kind of willy nilly. So I have not continued to do that since then. I was given this entire list of like a checklist of everything that I would need for singles. And the hardest portion of that is the music video portion. And while I went to film school and I understand how to edit film and put film together and do all that kind of thing, it is not my modus operandi. And coming up with the ideas is relatively easy. Executing the ideas is a completely different concept, especially when some of the ideas could take a massive amount of budget, which, as an independent artist who has turned down a major label deal, it is not the easiest thing to do to create grandiose videos. So that's where I'm at my slowest point right now. And thankfully, one of my musician friends here where I'm at has graciously decided to help do some music videos, provided they can be workable within a budget, in exchange for recording some of their songs, which is so far so good has been going on. I've gotten 2 videos done that way. We've recorded one of the songs. We need to record a second one. Now that the whole COVID thing's going on, that's kind of been put on hold, but eventually we'll hopefully get back there, which will be good. Yeah. So that's been going on. And I've been slowly working down this list on about 15 new singles that I have, getting every single piece done and ready so that I have essentially more than an album's worth of music and all of the PR, all of the video promotion, all of the videos, all of like everything that's needed for somebody that does PR to go out and say, hey, let's go and promote this particular song. So that is where I've been at. And I've slowly but surely been getting a lot of this done. Some of it's a little time consuming, and some of it, like especially lyric videos and trying to come up with ideas to make them different or unique rather than just being a black screen throwing words up. I'm learning to edit in Motion since I'm an Apple user and I'm not real fond of Adobe and their pricing scheme. I went and bought Motion, and so I've been learning to use Motion. I've been doing a lot of lyric videos doing that, and then I found out that there's a whole other thing other than the regular horizontal version. People are now doing vertical versions, so that doubles the workload because after you do the horizontal version, you got to turn around and do a vertical version. At least I am. It's just another piece of the element to what's going on, and so that's what I've been doing in that regard. This week, as of today, I finished yet another lyric video for one of the singles that will hopefully be coming out in the not so long distant future. The song itself has been sitting around for quite some time. It was recently re-recorded earlier this year before the whole COVID thing hit. The other thing that's been happening in regards to slowing all of that process down is that my favorite audio company, Universal Audio, has released a new DAW. And while I've been a Logic user for a really long time, and I appreciate what you've just said, John, I will get to playing some tunes really shortly here. Universal Audio has released this DAW called Luna, and I've done some side-by-side comparisons of taking mixes that were already finished in Logic and then transferring them over and doing them exactly the same in Luna. And the sonic quality, to most people, they probably wouldn't really notice the difference, but to people that actually can, like, are producers that know what they're doing and mixing engineers and recording and mastering engineers, there is a noticeable difference. And so now I have spent about 2.5 weeks recreating all 15 of those songs mixes of different singles in Luna. so that I can re-output them, which means I would have to go back to all of the finished lyric videos and exchange out the audio, which is relatively easy once I get everything finished. So that's been another process that I've been working on. And today I actually finished yet another lyric video. So yippee, that was nice. It's for a song called Femke, which is a funny thing in and of itself because the name doesn't necessarily roll off the tongue. And for the particular person that I wrote it for many years ago, they were actually floored by the fact that I was able to make their name sound musical. And there is another mixing engineer who has helped me with yet another organization that I've been working on called Muse PC, which is a songwriters group. They have been, he has heard the song and he's like, whoa, wait a minute. This song's actually quite amazing. So he's played it for other people. He's sung it for other people and everybody's just like, it gets stuck in their heads. So look forward to it. Eventually, I don't like to hype up songs and I have no idea when I'm going to actually set a recording date for it, or a release date, I should say, but I'm very close to having all of the items for it ready for release. So let's take a break for a moment because I should probably play a song in the concept of this, 2 songs and tonight no cover. So this one is called I Don't Want to Fall. And the original reason for the writing of it was actually due to a songwriting friend of mine who came to me, who has written a lot of songs. In fact, a couple of them that we've done have been used in various things like films and commercials and such. And it's called I Don't Want to Fall. And he came to me with this idea about not wanting to fall in love with someone. And right now, there's a lot of people, as I stated at the top of the broadcast, who are going through some really, they're having troubles hitting the 7-week mark of being sheltered in place. And maybe I can repurpose the concept of the title for being something that is, I don't want to crack apart or I don't want to fall into the abyss. So anyway, let's think of it that way. And this is how it goes. Hey there, it's me. Had fun last night, you look pretty, but I've been thinking, guess I'll just spit it out. It ain't anything you said or anything you are. And I don't wanna fall, even though I love the way God made you. Don't return my call. Love ain't never worked out in my favor. I forget to say that I feel this way when you're next to me, baby. After all, I don't wanna fall. Glad you're not there. Don't feel strong enough to face you. I'm starting to really care. It's not like I found someone to replace you. It ain't anything you said, but this is going way too far. And I don't wanna fall, even though I love the way God made you. Don't return my call. Love ain't never worked out in my favor. I forget to say that I feel this way when you're next to me, baby. After all, I don't wanna lose control and tear apart. I'm finally whole. See, baby, that's the fear. Excuse me while I disappear. I don't wanna fall. after all, I don't wanna fall. Even though I love the way God made you, don't return my call. Love ain't never worked out in my favor. I forget to say that I feel this way when you're next to me, baby. After all, I don't wanna fall, baby. After all, I don't wanna fall. There you go. Not quite rock, but, you know, playing it on acoustic guitar. It's a full-fledged song. You can actually find that on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, Google Play, wherever you listen to your music. And it's a full-on kind of thing with electric guitars and drums and keyboards and lots of vocals and all that kind of fun stuff. Co-written with a guy by the name of Johnny Elkins, who's a lovely songwriter. He and I also had a song that I think I played last week called Happy When I'm With You. That was in a movie called Lucky. And the drummer on that was a drummer by the name of Donnie Grundler, who happens to now be the vice president of education at Guitar Center. For like all of Guitar Center, not just one, but apparently the vice president of education for all of Guitar Center. So blame him. And thank you, John. I appreciate that. I'm going to carry on just a little bit, mainly because the next song that I had prepared, so to speak, for tonight is a song that I had co-wrote with another buddy of mine by the name of Greg Watton. And he is primarily just a lyricist. He's not technically a instrumentalist or singer of any sort. He just writes words, and he writes really good words. He is also a veteran who served in our armed forces. He was in the... Oh, boy, Greg, you'll have to pardon me, but I think you were in Afghanistan, if I'm not mistaken. And he came to me wanting to write a song for veterans. And I'm like, hell yeah, I'll do that. I'm happy to do so. It's one of those things that it's like, while I never spent any time serving in the military, I certainly appreciate everyone that has for this country. There's nothing more I can say. It's just like, I went through a point in life where it's like there were no wars at the time when I was eligible. Then when I technically, after that was done, I was no longer eligible. So it's like I missed the window, so to speak. And it's not that I wouldn't have done it. It's that the window wasn't there. So I appreciate everybody that does do it. I think it's awesome. So, and the song that he came back with had more to do with how veterans are treated after they've come back from doing their service. And I hope you don't mind, Greg, but I know that you deal with PTSD. There was a movie that I worked on a couple of years ago where one of the assistants, I think the head of the PAs, he had to leave set one day early because they were shooting off dynamite to control avalanche for snow, and it caused him to freak out. So it's a real thing. I understand it. I get it. And this song and the concept that Greg came to me with had everything to do with wanting to have like an anthem for our military types and our people that have done military service who have been essentially left by the wayside, which is kind of sad. And so I'm like, I was all about it. I was like, yes, we'll do it. And it did actually not come together real quick because the first type of music that I wrote for Greg to the lyrics that he had given me didn't quite fit what he wanted. And the lyrics weren't quite where I felt I could sing them effectively. So we both went back to the drawing board, started axing stuff out and bringing different concepts in, and finally found something that actually worked. And it was like, yeah. So that's where we came up with this song called Forgotten Warriors. It was released a few years ago on Veterans Day, which was kind of cool. In addition to that, I was asked to come and play the song live for veterans at the end of a veteran parade where I was at in Utah. Well, actually, I had to go there because I wasn't technically in that city, but they brought me in to come in and do the Veterans Day parade entertainment, so to speak. At the end, I got an entire room full of military veterans and police and fire and all kinds of people that protect our lives to be singing the chorus of this song. I nearly lost it in the middle of it, choking because of the fact that I had this room full of the very people that we were singing about singing the song with me. And it was like, whoa, very powerful, very cool. So yeah, the song is called Forgotten Warriors. And we'll do it right now. Unless anybody wants to go and do a shout out for Cinco de Mayo, because I don't have Mexican songs. I've not written one. I've not written a party song for Cinco de Mayo. Actually, I don't think I've written a party song for... Actually, it's not true. I have written a party song. It's written. The guy that I've written it with, it's for his band. We have not finished recording it and tracking it, which is unfortunate. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense right now to do it in terms of the fact that what it's about is essentially being a tailgate party? Yeah, tailgate partying in parking lots of major stadiums. So, but without further ado, this particular song is called Forgotten Warriors, and this goes acoustically like this. I lost my way, forgot who I was at the end of the day. The end of the day, my mind became completely overloaded. Completely overloaded. I thought I was insane. Got twisted up like wreckage inside of my brain. Inside of my brain, you could look at me, think of me, never stand like me. Bloodstains all over my memories. Till all of this smoke starts clearing, we'll never stop seeing our wasteland. That's what war does to a man. We are forgotten warriors. We are forgotten warriors. I'm locked and loaded. I took an oath to sacrifice my life. To sacrifice. I'm in the war zone. It's raining hell from the sky. It's raining hell from the sky. There's those that didn't make it. Memorials should be shown when they are recognized. They're recognized. You could look at them, think of them, never stand like them. Bloodstains all over their memories. Till all of this smoke starts clearing, we'll never stop seeing our wasteland. That's what war does to a man. We are forgotten warriors. We are forgotten warriors. We are forgotten warriors. We are forgotten warriors. We fight for honor. We fight for freedom. We fight for God. We fight for country. We are forgotten warriors. We are forgotten warriors. there it is, Forgotten Warriors. And in a sense, like maybe that's not so unbefitting at the moment, where a lot of people who wish to go back out in the world and get everything going again are kind of ignoring the fact that our current warriors in the healthcare system are going through problems. So there's some that have committed suicide, there are others that are quitting their jobs, and there are still others that are getting sick from helping others who have been sick. And while there are those moments where we see video of people clapping and cheering for them, and now we've got companies donating food and meals, which is all fantastic stuff, but I get the feeling that when is all said and done and this is either gone by the wayside and everybody's free to go about their lives again, or we've figured out some sort of vaccine to get rid of it, there's going to be a point where people forget all of the good stuff that was done by these people trying to save lives. And I hope that doesn't happen. I really do. Aside from that, Greg and I are contemplating a few other things that we can do with Forgotten Warriors to help our military veterans in that regards. And I am not drinking alcohol. I am drinking a grape apple juice soda that I have created from mixing SodaStream carbonated water with grape apple juice. Mainly because I find it tasty. And after this is over, the thing that I will be doing is a dinner for myself of tacos. Because why not? It's Cinco de Mayo. And I make pretty good tacos too, along with pizza. I know it's 2 songs on a cover tonight, and I wasn't planning on playing a third song, but now I'm thinking, fuck it. Why not finish with a song that another friend of mine who is also in the music industry, his name is George Lachey, fantastic mixing and producing engineer, also does mastering, and if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not sure I've said this before, George gave a rather famous band that people either love or love to hate. They're one of their big breaks, or maybe they're kind of their start. George, maybe you can chime in and say something in the comments about it. But Nickelback. George kind of gave Nickelback, from my understanding, a little bit of a leg up in the early days of their career up in Canada. He now lives here in the United States in the great state of Nevada. Anyway, there was a point where I was recording this particular next song, which is going to become, I guess, for the time being, my signature song to end any concert that I actually do with. And it has everything to do with a comment George made in the studio while we were tracking it. I had just gotten finished singing. I don't remember which line it was in the song that I had gotten done singing or had finished singing. George turns around from his producer chair and he's got his arms lifted up and he's like, dude, you just gave me goosebumps, and all the hairs on his arms were standing up. And I know what that feeling is like when you're working with an artist and you're producing them and something happens that is just absolutely magical. While I didn't notice that I was doing magic, George certainly did. I can't recall if my co-writer by the guy, bass player extraordinaire, Jesse Stern, was in the room or not, but there are certainly some interesting moments in my recording career where I've been working with other artists and suddenly I'm like, oh my, that just gave me goosebumps. And so why not? Screw the cover. This is going to be Till We Meet Again. I know I've closed 1 or 2 shows prior with this, and because of a comment from George, his literal comment was, this is your Purple Rain, and you're likely going to be closing shows with it, and stadiums of people will be singing along. And man, that's a high compliment. I hope you're right, George, and I hope it happens. Because that would be a lovely thing. It was a magic, happy to say it wasn't tragic. So true, So true, so true. I'll stay young till we meet again. Carry on till we meet again. I'll stay open, keep on hoping till we meet again. Lost within you, time was flowing. Here in my arms, love is growing. With you, with you, with you. I'll stay young till we meet again. Carry on till we meet again. I'll stay open, keep on hoping till we meet again. Life goes by and I won't forget. Time's too cold at every moment. Time's too cold at every moment. I'll stay young till we meet again. Carry on till we meet again. I'll stay open, keep on hoping till we meet again. I'll stay young till we meet again. Carry on till we meet again. I'll stay open, keep on hoping till we meet again. Till we meet again. All right, that's going to end this particular broadcast for the evening. I'm getting starvy Marvy. It went considerably longer. I did a lot more yapping than I normally do. And it was actually kind of fun. Not necessarily cathartic. Well, maybe it's a little bit cathartic in a way too. But I'm thinking that next Tuesday night when I go to do this, I will make notes for myself and carry on like a wayward son, as if I was channeling another famous band. Who might that be? Oh yeah, Kansas. Carry on, my wayward son. Yeah, so that concludes 2 songs and a cover for the night that ended up being 3 songs and no cover. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. And sayonara until next week. And we'll speak later.